Hello, Penny. I'm so glad to see you and to hear you and to conversate with you. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for all you've done for all of us, for all humanity, in this great deal we call real disclosure, and much more. And more than 70,000 friends of our channel, YouTube, Astralionica. I don't like this cruel word subscriber. I like word friends. They all thank you. Thank you from all their hearts for your work. So let's begin.
Thank you for that intro.
Thank you, Penny. And first of all, would you like to add something to this brilliant, wonderful, great 12-episode interview you've given to Alexander Cherkasov? Maybe something is deep in your heart, you can say, in addition.
The one thing that people missed is, and this is based on what people have talked to me about, they have missed the point that everything I talked about was 3D real, just like you and I are talking. My memories of space are just as real as talking to you right now. I'm not talking about being in another dimension, another frequency, or interacting with beings that are from another frequency. I'm not talking about being in another timeline. What I talk about is this timeline, 3D real, totally physical, not religious at all. And people keep missing that. And it's my memories are very disturbing. They're harsh. I wake up screaming in the middle of the night, wake up the neighbors with me screaming in the middle of the night. And these are not fun memories. And when people start asking me religious questions, it dumbfounds me. I was a child. I was kidnapped. I was used in military applications. And then I was brought back through technology. I was not off in some fantasy. I was not off playing games. I was picked up as a child and put into a war that I had nothing to do with. And so when people are asking me religious questions, I want to ask them, if you had access to a lieutenant from your army, would you ask them about religion? This is the same thing. I was a lieutenant in an army. So,
And by the way, you are a brave heart and loving heart.
well, I do care about people, and the real reason I came forward was to stop this happening to other children. And a lot of the people have told me, oh, it's not happening anymore. It's not happening anymore. But last January this year, I was contacted by a family in Texas, which is an American state, and their 4-year-old son was refusing to go to sleep because he didn't want to go to space again. He was flat refusing to sleep. Now, you and I both know that if you go too long without sleep, you go crazy. And this boy was flat refusing to sleep, which meant that at least one of his parents had to be up with him. This is a 4-year-old. You can't turn your back on them. So this is still happening. And that's why I'm still public. Now, on the good side, the CIA had a copy of my records. I'm not sure who all else, but the CIA did. And the data entry clerk, you know, the one who key punches everything in.
Mm-hmm.
The data entry clerk who uploaded my file to the CIA computer came forward verifying that what I talk about is the truth. That there was only one thing that I talk about that she didn't remember from my file. And that was something very minor. But she was surprised because there were other things that were in the file that I didn't remember. There were people that I had been at Langley and on Mars with that I still don't remember them. And there was another race of insects, intelligent insects, that was on Mars. And she says, "You don't remember the flies?" And I'm like, "No, I don't remember flies. I remember giant ants with wings. I don't remember flies. I don't remember the giant grasshoppers that Andy Bajago talks about either. Or the 2-inch tall humans. I don't remember those either. But I was in a ship, a plane that flew over Mars. So there's a lot of things that would be on the surface that I would not remember. They were not part of my daily life. So I wanted to make it clear that I'm now verified by someone who worked for the government. So as far as I know, I'm the only one of us who is in any country.
Yeah.
And there are, at the very least, thousands of us, probably close to 1 million of us, if you count all the people who don't remember yet. So
So you are unique, as usual.
I'm unique. Well, it's surprising when you have these memories and you come forward. And it surprised me that anyone would come forward to verify my story. But I have had other people who served with me come forward. I've been interviewing a man. You remember my story about the commanding officer that was so nasty that I blew up his head?
Yes, of course.
That was Joseph Powell. I've had him on my show.
Yeah.
So he came forward and he not only remembered me blowing up his head, but he remembered why. And he apologized to me.
Wonderful.
So the version of him here was a gentleman, yes. The people need to understand we serve out there in an altar, and the human here on Earth has no control over what that altar does. So holding the human on Earth responsible for it, it's like telling someone they're responsible for what a twin does.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fair. That's been one of the things that people have asked me a lot about. is the mind fracture. We call the pieces alters for alternate persona. It's a short word to describe it. When you have gone through these programs, okay, people want to ask me all about this person, that person, the other person, the other person, the other person, and there's what, 50 of us that are public. Frankly, I don't watch their stuff. I have no idea what they're talking about. Unless someone sends me a clip from an interview where they're calling me names, I don't even watch it. I have no idea what they're talking about. So you ask me about what an individual is saying. I haven't watched their stuff. I don't know what they're talking about. I do hear bits and pieces about, well, so-and-so said this, and it'll be something that's just completely full of shit. And so that will tell me that person is not real. So there's a lot of people that I have heard enough fantasy come out of their mouths that I don't take them seriously. Now, what you need to look for when you're judging SSP and Super Soldier, number one, is what they talk about 3D possible? And if it's not, are they describing a legitimate 3D technology? Okay, if you can walk through a wall because you have a special suit, then maybe it's real. If you can walk through a wall just because you want to, that's a fantasy. Do you get my point?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. If they are interacting with extraterrestrials, are these 3D physical people in a different shaped body? Can you kill them with a gun or a laser? Okay, that's number one. If you can't kill them with a gun or a laser, you're dealing with a spirit. And then it becomes religion or fantasy. When I talk about dealing with extraterrestrials, they are in a meat suit, just like we are. And the consciousness that is in that meat suit has a soul, no matter what the meat suit looks like. Okay, it can be a bucket of goo and it still has a soul. Doesn't matter what it looks like. And there are things out there that do not look even like they should be alive because they might be a rock that's conscious. The thing that we look for out there, can it communicate with at least 500 words? We look for, can it defend its territory? When it looks in a mirror, does it understand that it's its own reflection, or does it think it's another one of its kind? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how we define a person out there.
Yeah, it's all about 3D.
It's all about 3D. And all of these people who are dragging in, well, I'm such and such in 6D or 12D or whatever dimension they're in, that's religion. And I don't want to argue with them about their religion. They're entitled to their religious beliefs.
Or, or maybe it's wishfulness too.
There's a lot of wishfulness. So what I found with Americans that I've interacted with is that they cannot tell the difference between a real memory and a dream. They think, well, I dreamed this, so it has to be a real memory. Most dreams are about processing what happened to you that day or what you watched on TV or YouTube. Now, I used to do counseling with people. I stopped because of this problem. You will find people who will go to YouTube and they will watch my channel. They will watch Tony Rodriguez's channel. They will watch Ileana the Star Traveler's channel, or any of the other people that are out there. And then they'll start having dreams about it because they watched it on YouTube. And then because they had dreams about it, they think that it's real for them too.
Mm-hmm. Such a mess.
It's a mess. And people get really angry when I ask them questions. Well, do you just remember this, or is there more to it? And there's nothing more to it. And I say, well, you know, whose video were you watching? And then they really get mad. Whose video have you been watching? Because there will be just short bits of and then nothing around it. And you know that they've just listened to someone. Now, we had a real problem with that in 2016 because a certain person was on Gaia and he was very famous, and people were following him and listening to every word that came out of his mouth until he was sued by people that had shared their stories with him, hoping he would counsel them. And instead, he stole their stories and copyrighted them. So he's now disgraced. So I'm going to tell you guys, be very careful what you tell people like me. I have ethics. I have ethics. I'm telling my story. I've been telling the same story since I started. But you've got people out there that aren't. So you need to be careful who you tell your story to. And that's a real problem in my community. That's a real problem for everybody. So if you are going to tell your story, make sure you have a record that is yours. Should you ever decide to write a book or something, that way you still own your own story. Now, this is me looking out for you guys. You know, because the tendency people have is, I had this happen, tell me what I remembered.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't know what you're remembering. There's too many possibles. You're coming to me with this tiny little fragment and wanting me to tell you what you were in space. And my first question is this even your story, or did you watch so many of us that you're dreaming it? So I'm not trying to be nasty, but I want people to think.
It's the main thing today, because unthinking is the main problem today. Is a trend, very strange, but it's true.
Yeah, there's a trend of people to just feel.
Yeah.
They just feel, they look into your eyes, they try to read you. I really hate for people to do that. That's one of the reasons I wear glasses on screen, is to slow them down getting into my head. I'm actually a very private person. I'm only speaking about these horrors because people need to put a stop to them. The CIA is under the oversight of Congress. Congress can stop this if they have enough pressure on them to tell the CIA to stop. So I tell Americans, contact your congressman, contact your senator. For foreigners, contact the American diplomat in your country and say you're tired of this happening to children.
Yeah.
There's nothing we do out there that cannot be done by consenting adults. They just want to keep it secret, is why they're doing this.
It's very important. And by the way, there are many questions about this topic. How to help parents to save their children from these nightmares. So
Well,
you must be active. You must be active.
the family in Texas that their 4-year-old son was doing this, I told them to get an exorcist and hope it was a demon. Because if it was, they can get rid of it. The CIA, you cannot get rid of. Once they start abducting your child, they will keep abducting your child. And there's nothing you can do to stop them because they will use a technology that puts everybody in the house to sleep, even your animals. And they will come in and take the one person they want, use them for however long, and then bring them back. In fact, one of my friends on Facebook yesterday, she showed pictures from her 4-year-old's pillow where she had the boy had a blood stain this big on the pillow. And she said, well, I have SSP memories. Did they just take my child? And I said, the odds are pretty good that they did, yes. My youngest was 6 when he was taken. So they take families. If they took you, the odds are they're going to come get your kids too. And there's nothing you can do to stop it because they put everybody to sleep. And since it's not a spirit problem, it's an agency of humans coming in and doing it. You know, nothing spiritual or religious works because these are people. It's not a demon coming in, but I did tell the family, try that first. And if it stops everything, then count your blessings. But only do it once. I got put through 104 exorcisms. And after a while, it gets to where that it's spiritual abuse. And this was by Christians. So where most of the people in my community are triggered by Satanists, I'm triggered by Christians. This is one of the reasons that I don't like talking about religion, is because that's the first thing normal people want to do to you when you have altars. They will subject you to exorcism. And when that doesn't work, they kick you out of their church. I've been kicked out of 10 churches in spite of submitting to their exorcisms because they would put me through hell and I would still have altars. So at some point, it's just cruelty. And it's not just backwoods fundamentalist groups. I was put through the most exorcisms by the Church of England. So you guys need to know, Orthodox and Catholic churches are doing the same thing. One of my friends, very, very powerful psychic abilities, has spent time in space. She was raised Catholic, and she gives off an energy field that's very strong. And as she would walk down the center aisle to go up for communion, every light bulb would break over her. And finally, the priest said, you know, you're just not going to make it here.
The future is so bright, I got to wear shades.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to think about, not everything is cut and dried. One of the things that I keep being told by religious people is that there are only humans, demons, and angels. This is not true. Maybe in spirit, but we're talking about 3D real. I know where I live, we still have bears. We still have mountain lions. We still have rattlesnakes. Mm-hmm. Those are still real. They're still dangerous. You know, you need to deal with them as a 3D physical thing. So, okay, the questions you sent. Okay, folks out there, some of these questions are too intrusive. I have to have some area of my life that's still private.
Of course.
Okay, number one, I don't talk about other whistleblowers unless I know for sure they're real and they are friends of mine. Okay, I will tell you that Tony Rodriguez, Ileana the Star Traveler, Joseph Powell, Eric Hecker, Susan Long, and Frank Amart are all real. All of them. They're all real.
And Penny, are they all your friends? Or maybe something else?
When we are in space, there are 6 different factions that do not work together. Okay? You have American factions, you have other countries' factions, and then you have the Germans from Antarctica who are out there. I mostly served with the Germans from Antarctica. These were people who escaped Germany before the end of the war, formed their own breakaway culture. So you can't blame the German people for them, okay? These are a breakaway group and they are out there. And from what I remember, all they wanted to do was live their own lives in peace. And everybody keeps hunting them down like they're animals. That's how they see it, that they're simply protecting themselves. So you've got all these American groups. You've got ICC. Ileana calls them planetary corporations. Johann Fritz calls them the Alliance. Mm-hmm. All of these are the companies that make up the military-industrial complex. In Star Trek terms, these are Ferengi.
Yeah.
They are not the good guys, although they keep telling everybody they are. They are the people who own the factories that turn refugees from Earth into cyborgs to be sold as slaves. That's those people. And funny,
sorry. And what about financial system?
the financial system, they don't use money in space. They use DNA.
Oh.
So if they have a mated pair, especially if they've already got a child, they are worth a whole lot more in the trade than anything else we have. And all of these factions are going through and they are trading for more advanced tech. But we are considered a child race. And in the galaxy, it's illegal to give us anything important. So we are literally trading our own kind for what they consider toys. And then we wonder why these people out there, and I do mean people out there, they're in physical bodies, why these people out there think we're animals. Because that's the overwhelming description is, if you owned property and there were monkeys in the forest, and you noticed one day that the monkeys were building houses and farming, and then after a while, the monkeys started building cars. We're those monkeys. That's how we're considered. They're leaving us alone for the most part because they see us as a child race, something developing, and they're curious about what we're going to turn out to be. And we do have a lot of potential. But right now, we're young, we're foolish, we're violent, and we're not easy to get us to behave. So the Galactic Authority, the real government of the galaxy, has decided we're too dangerous to be free out there. So they started with the ones of us that had gotten the furthest out, and that happened to be the Germans. And they're sending us all back to the solar system. They're doing like the farthest out and then pulling it in. So all of those ships coming in through the sun, those are ships bringing German refugees back to the solar system. And they are being settled in the Oort cloud. Now, there are a lot of small planets all the way around. It forms not just a circle around us, but a sphere. Okay, so we have almost a Dyson sphere around the solar system. And the Germans are building underground cities on those planetoids because they're the first ones being sent back. Now, I know there was a planet, a colony that had 1 billion people, and the Guardians destroyed it because the Germans refused to leave. So the Germans and the Draco are working together to travel back in time to rescue these people. And they're bringing them. Now, in history, like you're looking at it, we've only been in space for 70 years. The Germans have had time travel for most of that time. If you go into hyperspace, you can not only come out at any point in space, but any time with that point. So most of their colonies are 400 years old. They've been there a long time. They're settled. Though their colonies are older than most of the cities in the United States. They've been
Yeah,
there.
of course.
They've,
Yeah.
they've been there a long time. And now they're being told they all have to come back and start over. And when they get through the sun and they're heading toward their destination in the Oort cloud, planetary corporations, ICC, are attacking the refugee ships and calling it a great battle. That's what's really going on, is they are attacking refugee ships.
Until now.
That's the war in space, is the
It's going on. It's going on.
It's going on. The military industrial complex is attacking ships full of families and calling it war, calling it defending the solar system. All of these people, their ancestors came from Earth. They're not even bothering Earth. They're going into the Oort cloud. So if you thought of them as people from your own country, because when they went back in time, they are where the legends of the Valkyrie came from. They were getting humans from Earth. They would watch a battle, and the people who died in battle, they would come take their head back to the ship, put them in regeneration. Remember the legend of the Valkyries? They hold up their heads and the body forms.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens in the regen tank. So they went back in time to find people who could build their infrastructure, people who knew how to work hard, people who didn't need electricity, people who knew how to build. And they went through all of Northern Europe. It wasn't just the German countries. And why do I know this? Because that was my job in one of my altars. There is a reason that this altar is called Valkyrin. She's a Valkyrie, a real one, okay? What I wore was the smart suit that Eliana describes with gold armor over it, because we thought we were mimicking the legend. So you had to get it right. Turns out we were the cause of the legend. So
It was the cause, knowing it.
now we know it. And I would go in, I would use my laser sword, cut off their heads, collect them up, as many as I could carry, and then transport back to the ship with these heads, and we would regenerate them into full-blown people. And the hardest part was language changes over time. So the hardest part was talking to these people. Okay, you're using modern Schwabish, and you're trying to interact with Vikings, because we went 600 years backward in time to get these people. We're not even going 1,000 years, but the language was so different. You know, that you're talking very early Scandinavian, very early German.
A bunch of dialects.
A bunch of dialects. And you know as well as I do, you move 40 miles, or what is that? 40 miles is 60 kilometers, more or less. Okay, you move 60 kilometers and you've got another dialect. Yes? So we had to keep all of those dialects straight and get everybody on the same language. And that took time too. So you're working with people who are, they're smart, they're talented, they have a technology that doesn't require electricity. And that's why you want them. So you're treating these people like they're smart and valued, but you're trying to bring them up to speed. And these were the core colonists everywhere the Germans went. These people would build the basic city. And from that point on, all of the other stuff was added to it. So now we've got 400 to 600 years later, these people are being pulled up and have to move. And they're not used to manual labor. They're used to having what they consider robots do their work. The average person in one of these colonies does not know that there is a human inside their robots. So
they are not robots, they're cyborgs.
They're cyborgs. That's what they're using is cyborgs. But the average person on the street doesn't know it. They think they're robots. So, you know, can you really call them a criminal because they don't know? I mean, do you know how your cell phone works?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So at the same time, I don't blame everybody in planetary corporations for what goes on with them either. Only the people that are actually involved and know and do it anyway. And most of the people that are manning the factories, they're slave labor. You've heard that from Ileana. She was picked up. She went through mind fracture. She was taken out into space. She worked as a lab tech in a factory, and she had no more control over her life than I did over mine. And that's why Ileana and I are friends here, is because even though we served in different factions, we both recognize we had no choices. From the time they picked us up as children, we were slaves, no matter what title they gave us. And that's something the public is all too ready to say, oh, this is glamorous. This is wonderful. I want to be part of this. No, you don't. You're out there and you're slave labor. They tell you all kinds of crap about that you're going to get paid when you come to Earth. You're not. And if you make too big of a fuss, they kill you. Look at how many people in the community have died in the last 5 years. Make it 10 years and look at it. Anybody who gets too popular and is continually telling the truth has crap happen to them. I've been shot 10 times with energy weapons. And when they figured out they couldn't kill me, they broke my shoulder. 2 years later, I can finally brush my own hair. This is what they're doing to us that are telling the truth. So these people that appear with these stories and they're talking about, they're mixing different races into one and using the wrong names and hating on anything just because it doesn't look human. I'll tell you one thing. Out of all of the physical extraterrestrials I've encountered, the ones that are the most dangerous look the most like us. They have white skin. They have white or blonde hair. They glow in the dark. Yeah, they do. That the white ones, they glow in the dark. Their eyes are either bunny red, gold, blue, or green. And yeah, they're where humans got those because they've interbred with us. That's why we look like them. They look like an albino version of us, except they're 9 to 12 feet tall. Meters. That would be 9 feet is 9 feet is 2.5 meters. And they start at that and go up to 4 meters tall. Those are the Jahami, and that's what they call themselves.
And they're still here. They're living
Yes, they're still here. And they have ships in orbit. And they are continuing to interbreed with us. And they are continuing to tell our elites how to run our planet because they never left. They still own the place. Remember, we're the monkeys in the yard that started building houses. We don't own this place. They do. And that's a big shock for people who think they're the pinnacle of creation. Okay, the Jahami are who all of Earth's sky gods are Jahami. Most of Earth's demons that are actual physical beings are reptilians because the Jahami resented their intrusions. So they didn't want humans to talk to them. And the truth of the matter is that both sides mistreat us because we're the monkeys in the yard.
Yep. And the main idea here for us is slavery.
Slavery, yes. That's the main idea through the whole story that I'm telling is this is pecking order slavery. You know, if you have chickens, they will establish a pecking order. Who's boss? Who can peck who without being attacked? Now, we have that same thing among people. If you've ever taught Sunday school, if you've ever taught regular school, you will find children have to establish their pecking order, and they will continue to fight until they do. And then they'll suddenly settle down and there's no more fighting because they know who's better than who. We do the same thing as adults, and we do the same thing in our entire society. And what ends up happening is this elite person in charge of this country will decide they're tired of being at the bottom. So they'll start a war. And what you don't know is the bankers make money on all the wars because they lend to all sides. And no matter who loses, they still get paid.
Mm-hmm.
So war is very big business, not just for the bankers, but also for the people who manufacture weapons and bullets. So it's very, very big business. And it's probably the last real business the United States has. And I'm looking at Afghanistan and going, why did they just leave all the stuff behind? Because, you know, unless it's, well, we figure we'll make more money if we have to make more. I'm like, okay. I'm waiting to see what happens with the Taliban, because there has to be some reason they left all those weapons with them.
Oh, it will be great blockbuster.
I'm waiting to see who they attack, because they had to have been told you can have all this stuff if you attack so and so. So I'm waiting to see who they attack.
Let's see. The show must go on.
Exactly. The show must go on. Okay.
So what about another questions?
Okay. I can't remember all the questions off the top of my head, so you'll have to tell me.
At your choice.
Yes, guys, he gave me the questions ahead of time. And there were 2 of them that I said, no way am I going to answer.
Okay, so here is another bunch of questions. And about, do you know anything about Dulce base?
Oh,
And this
Dulce?
yeah.
We call it Dulce.
Dulce, yeah. And this conflict between aliens and Delta Force in 1979. If you know something, please tell the story as you know it. And what's going on there now?
The story as I know it is that there was a treaty between the United States government and a extraterrestrial group that's known as the big-nosed grays. I don't know what these people call themselves. These people are noted for smelling bad. So I should throw that in. Their body odor is offensive to humans. So they were given this multi-level cave in Dulce. And they were contracted. Okay, as I understand it, they were genetically modified by the Draco, and they are missing 2 hormones to stay alive. And they get that by feeding off animals and sometimes people. They are one of the more dangerous life forms. Okay. So they've got this cave and they've got these humans having to work with them. And they were doing biology experiments. And they were kidnapping people from all over the country and Latin America. And at one time, they had up to 30,000 American women there for genetic experiments to make babies. And Jimmy Carter was president then. And Jimmy Carter was a very religious man. And when he found out they were keeping American women there for babies to experiment on, he became righteously indignant and ordered the invasion. Now,
so it was him who ordered.
Yeah, Jimmy Carter ordered it. And that's part of why he was one of the last presidents to be read into everything, was because in modern terms, he lost it and decided that this was not acceptable. And he found out because Phil Schneider's group accidentally broke in. They were building a deep underground military base and had not been told Dulce was there. And so they broke in, there was a battle. And then afterwards, you know, when it all went down and was reported to Jimmy Carter, he got mad and sent in troops. And they rescued some of the women, but most of them were killed. And a lot of them were mentally deranged from having been around extraterrestrials for that long. And within a matter of months, the base was up and running again
Mhm.
with newly kidnapped people. And they had a place called the Hall of Horrors. And in 2017, I was attacked. There was a device in my wall that hit me in the back while I was on my computer. And I was talking to people who had communications with a ship that is in orbit. And the short version is we sent a message for all the humans to evacuate. And I'm sitting here being hit in the back with a maser the whole time. And because it was a life-threatening situation for me, I had access to my psionic abilities. And I tracked the energy from the maser through my smart meter, through the electrical wires back to a computer in Dulce, in the ET cave. And my intention was to just blow up that particular terminal.
Mhm.
Instead, I accessed the weapons platform that's in space. It's part of President Reagan's Star Wars program.
Joint venture.
I was chipped into that. So when I'm in that mode, it takes down my firewall so I can access this. Now, I have to truly believe my life is in danger for this to work. This is not something I can do on command, okay? But if I believe my life is in danger, I can access this control panel. And there are 6 weapons. And I consciously chose the smallest one to blow up this one terminal that was responsible for me being shot at. The smallest weapon creates a mini black hole. Didn't know that.
Mhm.
But because I was remote viewing while I was doing this, I watched this black hole create itself, and I watched it flash. First it was black, then it flashed white, and then faded through yellow, orange, red, and into complete darkness. And I was like, okay, was this real? Or was this just
Imagination.
yeah, was this real or was this imagination? And I have a friend who lives in Moscow. His name is Boris Kazanov. And
Mhm.
I'm sure you know who he is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure your
Right.
audience does, but he's a psychic, and he links into the field of the planet. I think that's how he described it. And without telling him what I did, I asked him and Ileana to both read the Dulce base. That was the only information I gave them, was I need you to read the Dulce base. And Ileana has a report about it on her YouTube, the readings that she did. And her reading came out different than Boris's. Boris described the weapon going off and the colors changing and complete destruction. Ileana said that I damaged the field and that the base wasn't functional, but that I didn't kill anybody. I'm like, okay, so both of you have verification that I actually did something, that it wasn't my imagination. And I never saw anything on the US Geological Survey site for anywhere in New Mexico, but about 100 miles north in Colorado, there was something that they said was consistent with oil drilling. So that was the only physical recording for that time period. So yeah, I did look for physical evidence because, you know, this is pretty crazy. But as soon as I blew up the place, the maser shut off. So I'm like, okay, I stopped the source of being shot at. And it took me a good 2 months to heal from that because masers burn.
Oh, I know, Penny.
So that was a painful experience. So,
absolutely. It burns from inside out.
Yeah, it burns from inside out. And I had a hard time healing from it. And the man I live with is a shaman, and he called in a group of mantids to fix me. And that's probably why I'm alive today, is because they came.
So insectoids may be good.
Everybody out there are people.
Yes.
And they have what's in their own best interest, and they will do that first. But they're not necessarily evil. They're just taking care of their own needs first. You know, just like people do.
Yes.
So you can't expect them to be that different from us when we're all living in 3D.
Of course, university is diversity.
Diversity, yes, that's what, from what I can tell, the goal was for there to be as much as different as possible. Everything is out there. If there's an animal on Earth like it, if there's an animal on Earth, there's probably something in space that's similar, usually bigger, and has a mind.
I think it must be. It must be.
So this is
This principle of one of the principles of evolution.
Yeah.
Higher, 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 and higher.
If there's a possibility and it will live and thrive, then it's like it's been tried. And some of them have done really well, and some of them have been spectacular flops. So what was the next question? I remember you asked about Yeti.
Yeah, it was one question about Yeti. And
okay, the Yeti, in America, we call them Sasquatch or Bigfoot. And I think they're called Yowies in Australia. And they are what's called a cryptid, which is a physical life form that we've been unable to prove exists, and we don't know where it comes from. And there are people who think they have that they have the ability to become invisible. So I will say I really don't know a lot about them. I've not interacted with them myself. I have friends who have spoken with them telepathically, and they're quite impressed with them. So that they're an intelligent hominid species. They just still have fur all over where we don't.
Yeah, I've heard stories during my life in Soviet Union time, and from one story, I had a conclusion that they are highly, highly mentalized.
Mm-hmm.
But this man told me that he had a telepathic contact with one of the creatures, and this creature told him that we are here to help you to become real humans.
Well, they've
Such
got their work cut out for them, don't they?
yeah.
Yeah, there are states in America that have hunting season on them. So they really have their work cut out for them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know about the Ponti, the Greys that talk with Sue Walker and visit Kevin Estrella. He's a musician from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I had contact with them, and they asked me what I thought of their first contact plans. And I gave them a mental picture of, we have a class here of people who are backwoods, and they're usually simple-minded, and their approach is to shoot everything. And so I gave them a mental picture of a generic member of that group, called him Billy Bob, driving up to the spaceship in his pickup truck, having a shotgun in the back window and pulling out his gun and aiming it at him. And I said, you need to be prepared for this. They're about 20% of the population in the United States.
And that's a problem.
It's I'm assuming that there are people like that everywhere.
Well,
So I don't think we have an exclusive problem with that. I think that's everywhere. So I thought that these extraterrestrials should know that this is something that they need to watch for. You know, shielding at the very least.
oh, another question about the shape of the Earth.
The shape of the Earth.
So many questions about the shape of the Earth. It's a problem here to listen about flat Earth and so on and so on and so on. And it's craziness.
Flat Earth is a religious issue. Everybody that I've seen that really believes in it has been one of these religious folks, because the Old Testament, the old part of the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, and the Quran both talk about the earth being flat. So it's usually religious people who believe that. Now, from space, it's almost a sphere. It's flatter on the side with the Pacific Ocean and lumpier around the mountains in Eurasia and North and South America. So it's like, you know, I describe it as looking like a potato, except it's got water on it. So it's blue and brown and green, and has lots of white clouds around it, and more on whichever part has winter then. And you know, it's just sitting there like this beautiful blue jewel in space. And the Germans have told all of their people that there was a cobalt bomb war and that it's uninhabitable for 10,000 years. So
this is their system of belief.
yeah. So the Germans that are in Nachtwaffen have most of them have no idea that there are people here. So that's, I keep getting asked by Germans, well, why haven't they come back to get us? Because the masses of them think you're dead. Point blank, they're waiting for the 10,000 years so they can come back. And I've had a lot of German people basically cry because they want so badly to be free of the occupation. And that's a lot of the reason that the Germans went into space, was because they were so hated by their enemies and neighbors. So historically, up until 1930, they really weren't any worse than anybody else for their time. It just took them longer to get together to be a country. And when they absorbed the Holy Roman Empire, everybody else went, oh shit. That was pretty much it, So what they taught me in space was that they had been genocided every time they turned around for thousands of years. And from their point of view, the Romans attacked them. They were the primary enemy of the Roman Empire. Whenever Rome fell, 2 Germanic tribes, the Vatican took over, and the Vatican sent the Teutonic Knights to Christianize the whole area. The Teutonic Knights pretty much destroyed Latvia, most of Lithuania, and they started into Poland and were stopped there. And these were Catholic monks. And so from the perspective of the Germans who have talked to me, they've been subjected to genocide after genocide after genocide after genocide. And so they very much understand why their people went into space. And they just don't know why they got left behind.
Yep. Such a sad story.
So, I realize I'm telling the side of people that have not been heard or listened to and have been feared and hated for a long time. So I would like to state for the record, I am not German. I'm not. My personal genetics, family background, I'm a British royal. I'm descended from Robert the Bruce.
Oh.
My mother was descended from Charlemagne. Both sides of my family also have Native American. Cherokee, Micmac, Creek. And so I am mixed, but I am a royal. So, and my mother's mother was Sephardi, and they were from Alsace. So I'm Jewish. So they never hassled me in space about being Jewish. They hassled me about the Draco DNA that was added to me before I was born. They didn't care what ethnicity I was, but what they really wanted was pure Terran human. When they got into space and were dealing with the Draco and dealing with the Mars mantids and dealing with the Mars raptors, and the humans there wanted nothing to do with them, they figured out right away all humans from Earth have more in common with each other than any of us do with any extraterrestrial. Too bad it took them going into space to figure that out.
Interesting. So time is running, and I don't want you to be tired from our conversation. So let's take.
You had more questions.
Yeah, but I don't know. How do you feel?
Well, this was early for me. I'm doing okay. I'm used to talking for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and we're at about an hour 15.
So we have minimum 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Extra. Okay. So let's talk about art.
Art?
Yeah. And first of all, music.
Music.
Very many questions. What kind of music loves Benny?
The Germans officially play classical music. Mostly German composers.
They're on Mars.
The Officer's theme song is Jupiter from Holst's The Planets. And we have, you know how the British have made a hymn out of it? We have the words translated into German, and we sing that every day on ships or on bases. That's the theme song for the military. And the enlisted men, their theme song is Mars from the same symphony. So it's considered to be too martial for the officers. But we listen to, they play music on the ships, on the bases, and it's all classical music.
Only?
Only. Now, we sometimes get bootlegged music and movies and other recordings, because when you put things on radio or TV, when we were broadcasting, you know, over the air, that goes into space, and we were picking that up. So we, you know, depending on your captain, your ship's commander, some of them would play the stuff for you and some of them wouldn't. Some of them it was contraband, and others it was, what the hell, you know, have fun. So we would be out there and hear Earth's music and then be sent back. And when it comes in, it's like, that sounds so familiar. But my personal tastes. My dad liked classical music. He loved Caruso. He liked Don Ho. And my mother liked what we call in America honky tonk.
Huh.
And she had several Elvis Presley albums. So and the radio was always on the pop music. When I was in high school, I took a music appreciation course in high school, and was introduced to a lot of things. And about that time was when I discovered FM radio. I was in high school in the 70s, so this was a long time ago. And this was when progressive rock was first becoming really popular in the United States. And that would be The Who, Moody Blues, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath. That was during the time frame that heavy metal was getting started. So I have a fondness for drums and guitars, and for people who don't have to have tuning done for them by a computer. People who actually know their craft. And the style is not as important as the musicianship. So I get in moods where I like slow music, but most of the time I listen to music to pick up my mood. So I listen to a lot of rock and roll because it raises my energy level and perks me up. These days, the theme song on my radio show was written for me by Kevin Estrella of Pyramids on Mars. He's been a guest on my show. I've been a guest on his. We met at a conference. He's a ET experiencer, and he's a good friend. There were a group of us who vacationed together 2 years ago before COVID. He was part of it. And his song Nachtwaffen is a combination of Germanic drums with tonal language. And the melody is in tonal language, and it actually means, can you hear me? So it's an incredible 6-minute song. And when I listen to it, you know how you see pictures when you listen to music? Mm-hmm. I'm back in a fighter ship, and I'm feeling like I'm flying while I listen to it.
Battle mood.
What?
Battle mood.
No, like freedom. You know, you're inside a ship, and it's a tiny space, but
you are the ship. You are the ship.
I become the ship, and it's freedom, and that's how I feel when I listen to it. So I'm just like, wow. There is an American group called Disturbed, and their song, The Light, gives the most hope to people who have been damaged that I've ever heard any song. And it's to people who have not been damaged, it sounds very dark, because it's like, you know, when you go through the dark, you can see the light. You know, but for those of us who have been through the dark, it gives us hope of finding the light. So what else do I listen to? I get into these moods where I go through the stuff that was pop music when I was in high school. uh, the Sumerian group. Oh, there. My partner reminded me of a group that I listen to, and they're out of Mongolia. It's the Who, H-U.
Oh, from Mongolia.
From Mongolia. Those people are incredible. They have a Mongolian guitar. I don't know if it's a guitar or it's called a violin, but they can make it whinny like a horse.
Something between.
Yeah, it's something in between. And they are just like, wow. The combination of, well, it's their traditional patriotic music, but it's very similar in style to throat singing heavy metal.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
they're great musicians, really great musicians. So yeah, I listen to, there's a internet radio channel that plays traditional Scandinavian type music, and I'll play it.
Ballads or something else?
I don't speak the language, so it varies between drums and ballads and it's stuff I can play while I'm reading.
Mm-hmm.
So
and what about Secret Garden? It's a duo.
I don't think I've heard them.
Beautiful music. Beautiful music, absolutely. Secret Garden.
Secret Garden. I'll look for them.
Suggest you.
Yeah, there were a couple of groups that I was listening to, and their music took a turn to the dark. So their newer music is too dark for me. So
okay.
One of them is In This Moment. Their earlier work is excellent, perfect. And then this last album they did is just, it's like red paint everywhere. And the obvious blood symbolism was too much for me. So you have to pay attention to what they're doing.
Always.
So, but yeah, I was raised with a mix of music, and my partner likes country music.
Oh,
so
I love country music too.
So I play it for him. So we've been together 20 years, and it works because we respect each other and each other's preferences. He tolerates my metal, and I play his country, although I should play it more often.
And who's on the top of the country today?
I don't know. He doesn't listen to the newer stuff. He listens to Bocephus and Hank Williams and Johnny Cash and those the Highwaymen, those guys.
Okay.
And there were the Traveling Willoughbys, I think it is. The Traveling Willoughbys. They're from way long ago. 1960s, I think. So
golden years.
Yeah. Well, I'm 65, he's 72, you know?
Yeah, man.
He'll be happy to hear that.
So time's running, and maybe It's the last question, but it's very important. And maybe this will be two questions combined.
Okay.
And the beginning is, you told about galactic guardians. Who are they? Are they people like me, like us, like you and me? Or maybe about their appearance, about their energetic fields, and so on and so on, if you can.
Okay. The Galactic Authority is the government of the core, and it's made up of the level 3 civilizations and higher. Okay, on the energy scale. The level 3 civilizations are the Galactic Authority. They make the rules for everybody else. And the Guardians are their military police.
All over galaxy.
For the whole galaxy. They are the military police, and they are made up of the best, the brightest, and the most ethical from the member planets. So some of them are Draco, some of them are insectoids, some of them are human looking. The ones that I interact with are a team of 5 of them, and they are from the Canis Minora system. And when they are on all 4s, they look like wolves. When they are standing up, they are 5 meters tall, and they resemble Anubis. They are canids, and they have told me that their particular group, that they are called the Hounds of the Corners, and that they are the same group that Thoth was so frightened about in the Emerald Tablets. And they have been assigned to make sure I stay on task. So my primary mission here is through them. So they are making sure I stay on task, that nobody kills me, that I'm staying, that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And I'm not supposed to talk about that mission.
Okay.
That's the best way I can put it. I'm not supposed to make that the message. Okay. The message is that slavery has to stop.
Must be stopped at last.
All the slavery has to stop. All of the Babylonian magic, money magic has to stop. The actual slavery has to stop. The patriarchy has to stop without turning it into matriarchy. There has to be equality between all the groups. It's okay to have like someone in charge that answers for the people, but all of the people have to still have rights. That the playing field has to be level, instead of the people who are already rich having advantages. The playing field has to be where anyone can do anything. And we are supposed to become a level 0 society where everyone who is sentient has all of their basic needs taken care of, regardless of how we feel their personal worth is. Now, they can still work at doing whatever, for whatever reason, but their basic needs are to be taken care of. Housing, food, shelter, housing, food, education, medical care, and energy needs. As all of that is supposed to be provided. And for every sentient individual, that means they look in the mirror and they know it's their reflection. And that includes some of the beings that we've traditionally treated as dumb animals, like elephants, like dolphins, like whales, like bears, wolves, some dogs, some of the great cats. So it's more, we can't even treat our own kind decently. And the guardians are expecting us to get to the point where we can treat these animals as near equals.
They're only expecting, or?
Well, I've kind of been told that it's a carrot stick situation. That we will be offered the opportunity to be guided into this situation. And it will be a 50% plus 1 vote. And that if we say no, we will be pushed into the Stone Age to start over. So that maybe next time we will have more value for our fellow humans. I've also been told we've been offered this 4 times before and have turned it down every time. That there is a natural disaster that is coming. And if we say yes, that disaster will be averted. And if we say no, it won't be. So this is what I'm supposed to be telling people.
So this is about our future, by the way.
This is about our future. This is about our survival as a species. Because
humanity, the whole humanity.
The whole humanity, all of us. No matter what our skin color, no matter what language we speak, no matter what part of the globe we live in. This is all of us. So are we going to overcome our selfishness and judgment of others to say yes and live? That's what it comes down to. And that's what my actual job is here, why the guardians have kept me from being killed.
So if you are still here, still alive, still beautiful, smiling,
thank you.
It's a great point to say there's still place for great hope.
Yeah, we haven't been asked to vote yet. So there's still great hope, because if we say yes, we will have a golden age. It will be very different from what we expect, But it'll be a golden age. Everyone will have all of their needs provided for. We won't have to be cutthroat with each other. There's technologies in the secret space program that could give us this today.
Yeah. Let it be. Let it be. So thank you, Penny. Thank you, Penny, for this beautiful, great conversation. Many questions are solved for our friends, and much more are unsolved. They will wait for some time, and I hope for future for next conversation.
Okay.
And I believe it will be not so long.
Well, I'm seeing a surgeon next week for possible spinal fusion surgery.
We'll
So,
pray for you, Penny. We'll pray for you.
thank you.
Of course. We love you, Penny. You have to know it.
I love you guys too.
More than 70,000 people will love you. And I have to say it.
That's humbling. That really is, that many people. So thank you for having me.